I had never even considered an egg donor, never in a million years. My ovaries somehow had gotten infected. Ended up having to do a complete hysterectomy, and I was devastated. God gives you what God gives you. Life doesn't always work the way we plan it to, but you have to keep going. So this is David. He is 10 and a half weeks, and this is why we're all here, right? I had had a previous marriage, and my husband was never quite ready to start, so after 18 years I left that and found someone who was ready. That put me at 41 by the time I found a new husband, and 42 when I came here, which is a little late to be starting. I first came to Life IVF in 2012 and started IVF in March of 2012. We did 5 rounds of our own IVF. We ended up with just the 2 eggs that were frozen at day 3, and in September 2012 we transferred them at the same time. There was a happiness on that day I cannot describe. 2 weeks later I came in and we were not pregnant. That was devastating because that was our only chance. The doctor told us that because of our history of trying and my age, that we needed to use an egg donor. I had never even considered an egg donor. I had never in a million years. And we weren't quite ready to go there. We took a brochure home, we looked at it. It was too expensive, they were too far away. This was the end of the road, and we just had to live with it. But we couldn't quite live with it. So we ended up, a year later, a friend of ours had suggested we try international medicine, and we went and we had an egg donor in the Czech Republic. I'm part Czech, so that kind of made sense. And this was from a friend who was a doctor, so it was medically sound, but it didn't work either. We were ready to go back to the Czech clinic about 6 months later, and I suddenly had terrible pain. And it was ovarian cyst pain, which some of you may have had. And I'd had surgery, so I knew there was nothing they could do. I ignored it. And that night I had more pain and I passed out. So I went to the hospital, and my ovaries somehow had gotten infected, both of them, and they had burst. So now I had infection throughout my abdomen, and I was septic. The doctor didn't quite get the news that I was septic, so she waited a while before she came to the hospital. And by the time she came, I was right on the edge of organ shutdown, which is the last stage of sepsis. She ended up having to do a complete hysterectomy. She took my ovaries and my fallopian tubes and my uterus and my cervix, and I was devastated. But she saved my life, and in the face of horrible loss, you had to be thankful that you were still alive. You want to take him? David, Dr. Yellion's going to take you. So I was alive, but very sad, because that meant I could never carry my own child. We had signed up with an adoption agency, and after several years of never quite being able to finish the paperwork, we decided not to do that. My brother-in-law had a baby, a little boy that looked just like my husband, and he decided he wanted one that looked like him. My husband Jerry could still have a baby that looked like him, even if I couldn't. So we started looking, and we went online and we looked and looked, and we found a clinic called Fertility Needs, fertilityneeds.com. And they are an agency over on the East Coast. I believe that they partner with a particular IVF clinic, but they also kind of broker out egg donors and surrogates, and they recruit people from all over the country. That was a very long process. Usually it's 3 months. For us, it ended up being 16 months, and we went through 5 egg donors and 4 surrogates for reasons that they all had different things happen in their lives that made them have to withdraw from the process. We ended up with a surrogate in Utah, and we considered changing IVF clinics to one in Utah. It made a lot of sense that it was close to them, and we wouldn't have to pay for their travel. But the CDC ranks clinics, and Life IVF back in 2014 ranked 3rd in the nation for dealing with egg donors and surrogates. And our background was that we knew that Life IVF had always ranked quite high in all of the IVF proceedings throughout the nation. And so we decided to stay here. We knew Dr. Yelian, we knew what a really nice guy he was, we knew that his staff was nice. We just felt comfortable flying them here, so we did. Our egg donor traveled to a Zika country that caused us a 6-month delay, and our next to last surrogate did too, so we ended up getting a new surrogate. But the egg donor and the surrogate that we got were great. The egg donor was a 28-year-old graduate student, and she was very calm and very responsible, very nice. And our surrogate was a 34-year-old married woman with 3 children, and she taught 2nd grade, and she had a master's degree. And they were both absolutely wonderful. They came here and they worked with Dr. Yelian, and it was a lot to coordinate. We have a third-party reproduction department here that helps you with that. There was a lot of back and forth, and the clinic was really great. And we retrieved eggs in September of 2017. Our surrogate got pregnant the very first time, and we had triplets. We transferred 2 and got 3. All that failure. What? Now we have overwhelming success that we didn't quite want. We wanted 2, we did not want 3. God gives you what God gives you. But there are enormous risks, health risks. We were very concerned about the health risks of bringing 3 at one time into the world. Not only were we concerned about the health of the babies, we were also very concerned because we were borrowing somebody else's body, someone else's life, somebody else's mother, somebody else's wife. And we were not willing to take the risks with her. We talked to Dr. Yelian, we conferenced. There was someone he could refer us to for what's called selective reduction, where they narrow it down to only twins. I called every single OBGYN in the greater Salt Lake area, and I found one who would tell me on the phone that they would consider the selective reduction. But we had to wait until week 10, as Dr. Yelian said, because sometimes nature takes care of it on its own. And we flew out there for the week 7 ultrasound, and it did. Week 6, all 3 of them had heartbeats. Week 7, only 2 of them had heartbeats. Relief. Then we get to week 9, and we're still good, except he's not growing. Kind of worried. Week 10, he's growing again. We're supposed to graduate, but the second one dies. That happens. It's actually a 45 to 60% chance when one of a twin dies that the other one will die, but it's usually within 2 weeks. Ours was 3. There's like a 4% chance of losing a baby after week 10. We ended up with him. I was convinced he was going to die. So much loss, so much pain. I just knew we were going to lose him. But every step, he was healthy. It was a good checkup. He had all of his toes. His organs were fine. I was still convinced he was going to die. On July 2nd, the doctor had decided to induce labor at 39.5 weeks. Within 5 hours, he was born. And he's perfect, and he's healthy, and he's ours. And I was really worried all along that I wouldn't attach because he wasn't mine. You know, he was my husband's. My husband could look at him and say, oh, that looks just like me. And he does look just like my husband's baby pictures. And I was worried that I wouldn't be able to do that, ever. It doesn't matter. I thought it would. For years I thought it would. It doesn't matter. He's mine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Life doesn't always work the way we plan it to, but you have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And yeah, failure is hard, and you're going to say, I can't do this anymore. This is too heartbreaking. It costs too much. You know, we went through the money that we had to spend, and we ended up drawing off of my husband's retirement. He is a retirement baby, but totally worth it. I would never change our decisions. Every day I am so grateful, and I am so grateful also for our egg donor and for our surrogate. We had an amazing surrogate. She carried this baby. She was willing to do anything. She had good communication, and yet not so much. We didn't hover over her. We have a good relationship with them. She has 3 kids. We had her hold him at the hospital and had her husband hold him, and her mom came in, her aunt came in, her kids came in. We have pictures of all of it. We stay in touch. We still send pictures back and forth so that she has a sense that she really did this thing. And she agreed to nurse him for 48 hours. The hospital agreed to hold her, and so he got the colostrum, which is part of the immunization system that comes from breast milk before the milk kicks in. And she gave that to him and to us, and we are forever, forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Age is still number one factor to correlate with your the quality of eggs. And so if you want to be successful to have a baby, and if you are single, freeze your egg. And that's probably the best piece of advice I will give for any single woman. And Susan said one thing is very, very true. And when you have a baby, no matter this baby is from your own egg or using donor egg, after you have this baby, that's yours. And that's yours forever. I remember one doctor, and actually he was from Las Vegas, because I'm the one not always convince people using donor egg. And he was the one always convince the patient using donor egg. So I was asking him, how you convince the patient using donor egg? And he said, that's simple, because he said that your husband, each contributing half of the gene to the baby, 50%. But when your child have another child, grandchild, your gene only 25%. Then great-grandchild only 12.5%. Then grandchild only 6.125%. Almost no difference than your neighborhood child. She said that when I tell people that, and it seems like people has no problem with accepting using donor egg. So that's true, and because the most important part in our next generation is raise your child. Huge responsibility. The bond between you and the baby is always there, and Susan raised this child, that's hers.
Two 400-307.
Got it. All right. Congratulations.